The morning sun cast long shadows across Marcus Reeves's Montana farm. He sat on his porch, coffee in hand, watching the mountains in the distance. At 52, his body still carried the strength of his military days, though his face showed the lines of someone who had seen too much war. 20 years in Earth's special forces had been enough. 3 world wars had taken their toll. Now all Marcus wanted was peace and quiet. That peace ended when a bright light flashed in the sky. Marcus stood up, his old instincts kicking in. The light grew bigger, moving too fast and too straight to be a plane. Within minutes, a silver ship the size of a small house landed in his wheat field. "Well, damn," Marcus said, reaching for the gun he kept by the door. The ship's side opened. With a soft hiss, 3 tall figures stepped out. They walked on 2 legs but looked nothing like humans. Their skin shimmered blue-green in the sunlight, and their 4 eyes blinked in different patterns. Commander Marcus Reeves, the tallest one, said in perfect English. Marcus kept his gun ready. "I was a commander. Now I'm just a farmer who's asking. I am Ambassador Zen of the Galactic Confederation. We have an urgent matter to discuss." Marcus laughed. "Sure you do. We've been watching Earth for some time." Zen said, "Your species has a particular skill set we need." Inside the ship, they showed Marcus holograms of a war being fought across the stars. The Galactic Confederation, an alliance of 17 peaceful species, was losing badly against something called the Void Collective. These creatures looked like living shadows that consumed everything in their path. "Your military records are impressive," said Klitsch, the mantis-like officer, who would later become the ship's exo. "Your tactics during the Battle of New Singapore saved thousands." "That was a long time ago," Marcus said. Zen clicked something that sounded like frustration. "Our soldiers have better weapons and ships than yours, but they lack what humans have the will to do, what must be done in war." "You want me to teach aliens how to kill?" Marcus asked. "We want you to teach them how to win," Zarin answered. "The Void Collective has destroyed 12 worlds in the past year. They will reach your solar system within a decade to prove their point." They showed Marcus real-time footage of a void attack on a peaceful planet called Ara. The shadows moved through the alien city, consuming everything living. The defenders fought bravely but with strange hesitation, following rules of engagement that made no sense. In the face of total destruction, Marcus watched silently as an entire civilization disappeared in hours. "We need instructors," Zarin said. "You will be the first." That night, Marcus packed a small bag. He had no family left on Earth, no real connections. Maybe, out there among the stars, his lifetime of violence could finally serve a greater purpose. As he boarded the ship the next morning, the 3rd alien, a tall, thin being who hadn't spoken before, leaned close. "Your species scares us, Commander," it whispered. In a soft voice, "We pray we haven't made a mistake." The ship's door closed and Earth grew small behind them. Marcus Reeves, the first human killing instructor in the galaxy, was going to war again. The ship called GCS Horizon was bigger inside than Marcus had imagined. Bright lights ran along wide hallways where aliens of different shapes and sizes walked with purpose. Marcus felt their eyes on him wherever he went. "You are the only human on board," said Clutch, the mantis-like officer assigned to guide him. Her voice had a clicking sound between words. "Many crew members have never seen your kind before." Marcus nodded. "I've never seen their kind before either." His room was small but comfortable. The bed was too soft, the ceiling too high, and everything smelled like flowers. Marcus missed the smell of Earth already. On his 3rd day, Klitsch took him to the training deck. "This is where our soldiers practice," she explained, showing him a large room filled with glowing blue lights. "The simulation creates battle scenarios. Marcus watched as a group of alien soldiers moved through a city landscape. They took careful shots, never fired without warning, and stopped to help injured enemies. Their mission was to secure a building, but they spent more time helping wounded civilians than fighting. "What's the goal here?" Marcus asked. "To complete the mission with minimal death," Glitch answered proudly. "The Confederation values life above all else." Marcus frowned. "And how's that working against the void?" Klitz for eyes blinked rapidly. "Not well," she admitted. When it was Marcus' turn to try the simulator, he asked for a rescue mission. The computer created a scenario: hostages held in a building, surrounded by enemy forces. "Show us how humans train," the lead officer said. Marcus entered the simulation and moved like water through the virtual city. He didn't hesitate. He didn't warn. He didn't stop to help wounded enemies. Every shot found its target. Every move had purpose. When enemies hid behind cover, he flushed them out, with tactics that shocked the watching aliens. 4 minutes later, all hostages were safe, and 36 enemies were eliminated. When Marcus stepped out, the room was silent. One of the alien officers was bent over, making a strange sound that Marcus later learned was their version of vomiting. "You broke 17 ethical combat protocols," Klitsch said, her voice shaking. That's not how we fight." "That's why you're losing," Marcus replied simply. That night he overheard 2 officers talking outside his room. "The human should be sent back," one said. "Its methods are too extreme." "The void doesn't follow our rules," the other answered. "Perhaps what we need is a monster of our own." The next day, Marcus found himself alone in the ship's eating area. When he sat down with his food, the aliens at the table stood up and moved away. Their fear was clear in the way they looked at him. "They'll get used to you," Clutch said, sitting across from him. She was the only one brave enough to stay. "No," Marcus said, watching. "The others. They won't, and they shouldn't." He understood his role now. He wasn't here to become one of them. He was here to teach them something they feared, but desperately needed: how to be more like humans. Marcus ate alone, planning tomorrow's lesson in his head. The real training hadn't even started yet. After 2 weeks of space travel, the horizon reached Meridian Station. From the viewing window, Marcus saw a massive ring-shaped structure floating around a small blue planet. Thousands of ships moved around it like bees around a hive. "This is where we train our best soldiers," Klitsch explained as they docked. "You will teach here." The station commander, a tall purple being with 6 arms, greeted Marcus coldly. "Human, you have been assigned 20 cadets. No one else wanted them." Marcus smiled. "The problem, children. Huh, perfect." His classroom was a large, empty white room with holographic projectors. Marcus took one look and shook his head. "This won't work," he told Clutch. "Take me to an empty cargo bay." The unused cargo bay was huge and empty. Marcus spent 3 days working with station engineers to transform it. They installed gravity controls, movable walls, and hidden compartments. By the time he finished, the room looked nothing like it had before. "What do you call this?" Klitsch asked, looking around nervously. "The killing floor," Marcus answered. "Real training needs real space." On the first day, 20 alien cadets stood in perfect rows wearing clean uniforms. They represented 8 different species, some with 4 arms, some with scales, some with blue skin, and others with features Marcus couldn't even describe. "I am Commander Reeves," he said, walking in front of them. "You are here because no one else wants you. Good. I don't want perfect soldiers. I want survivors." He threw a box on the floor. It opened to reveal weapons, real ones, not training models. "These are live weapons," he explained as the cadets looked shocked. "In my class, there are no safety protocols. Pain is real. Failure has consequences. A tall, thin cadet with grayish skin raised a hand. Sir, that's against Confederation training rules. Rules don't stop the void, Marcus said. From now on, forget everything you've been taught. He set up the first exercise, a simple room-clearing drill. When the first cadet tried it, Marcus used a remote to make the floor shock him when he made a mistake. "That's not fair," the cadet yelled. "Is the void fair?" Marcus asked. "Will they warn you before they kill you?" 3 cadets walked out that day, refusing. To continue, Marcus let them go without comment. The remaining 17 watched in silence as Marcus showed them how humans fought. He moved with deadly grace through the training room, demonstrating techniques no Confederation soldier had ever seen. "The difference between you and me isn't physical," he told them as they watched. "It's that humans long ago accepted what you refuse to acknowledge. In war, you must be willing to do terrible things to prevent even worse outcomes." At night, Marcus heard station personnel whispering about him. They called him the Grim Reaper and his class the Death Squad. He didn't mind. The names were accurate. After 1 week, his cadets' combat scores had improved by 200%. The station commander called him to a meeting with 5 high-ranking officers. "Your methods are disturbing," the commander said, "but effective. We will allow you to continue with one condition: no permanent injuries to the cadets." Marcus nodded. "I have a condition too. Complete freedom to train my way. No interference." The commander hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Agreed. May we not regret this decision." As Marcus left, he heard one officer whisper, "What have we invited into our midst?" Marcus smiled to himself. They would soon find out 8 weeks into training. Marcus had 15 cadets left. Each day pushed them harder than the last. They ran with heavy packs in double gravity. They fought in complete darkness. They went days without sleep. These exercises would be considered cruel on most Confederation. Worlds, Tara, a tall alien with light blue skin that seemed to glow softly, was his best student. Her people, the Ethereals, were natural empaths who could sense emotions around them. This made her excellent at predicting enemy movements, but terrible at making hard choices. Today's exercise was the hardest yet. Each cadet had to complete a rescue mission, where saving the main targets meant letting some civilians die. The simulation was shockingly realistic. Tara stood frozen as the building in the simulation began to collapse. She could save the critical targets or go back for the civilians, but not both. Tears ran down her face as she finally turned away from the civilians and completed the main mission. When the simulation ended, she fell to her, knees shaking. I can't do this," she whispered. "I felt them die. I felt their fear." The other cadets looked at Marcus, waiting to see if he would comfort her. He didn't. Computer display, historical file. "Earth RW3, Marcus said. The room darkened around them. Appeared scenes from Earth's darkest moments of war, the brutal fighting in Stalingrad, the horror of the Pacific battles, the desperate last stands of the resource wars. The cadets watched in silence as regular humans without special powers or advanced technology, fought with savage determination. They saw soldiers make the same terrible choices Tara had just made, but without hesitation. "This is why they brought me here," Marcus explained. "Not because humans are stronger or faster, but because we've stared into the abyss for millennia and learned to function within it." He walked over to Tara, who was still on her knees. "The void doesn't care about your feelings," he said, not unkindly. "They will kill everyone if you hesitate. Sometimes saving. Some means accepting that you can't save all." Well, that night, restless and unable to sleep, Marcus wandered past the training room and found Tara silently running the same combat simulation, making the same painful choice again and again, tears cutting lines down her face. And even when she saw Marcus watching, she didn't stop, whispering in a flat voice that she needed to learn not to feel so much, to become more like him. The next day, summoned by the station commander, Marcus stood before a room full of angry officers who accused his methods of damaging cadet mental health. But instead of defending himself with words, he invited them to observe a demonstration where his 15 cadets faced off against the station's elite combat unit, 20 top soldiers, and in a brutal, efficient, capture-the-flag match, the cadets overwhelmed the veterans with tactics that were ruthless and flawless, leaving the room in stunned silence as the commander, staring at Tara's unblinking hollow gaze, whispered, "What have we unleashed?" To which Marcus simply replied, "Hope." Word of his training spread fast, and within 3 months, dozens, then hundreds of humans arrived, bringing with them the hardened experience of Earth's countless battlefields. Marcus was promoted to lead the newly formed Predator Protocol, and his original cadets became instructors, carrying forward the doctrine of survival through unflinching decision-making. And one morning he was called before the Confederation's highest military council, where alien generals, both awed and uneasy, asked why humans excelled so unnervingly at war. He answered with a simple hologram showing primitive humans chasing prey across the African plains, explaining that humanity evolved not through specialization but through persistence, adaptability, and lethal efficiency, and as he pointed out the evolutionary paths of other species shaped by cooperation, Marcus stated plainly, "You brought apex predators into your midst. We're designed to hunt, to survive, to kill with purpose," adding that while killing is natural to humans, so is compassion, and the best warriors know when to be which. After the meeting, Klitsch informed him that Void forces had started retreating from systems where human-trained units were present, and when Marcus replied, "Good, fear is useful," he meant it. Later, he watched his original cadets board a ship for their first real mission against a Void scouting fleet, led by Tara, whose once luminous skin had dimmed with experience and whose expression mirrored the cold readiness Marcus once saw in his own reflection. When she said they'd make him proud, he corrected her, "Don't fight for my pride. Fight to come back alive." And 3 days later, the cadets returned intact, carrying captured Void tech no one had ever secured before, and as the station celebrated, Tara admitted that the Void tried to run when they saw the humans, and Marcus, unsurprised, told her, "They recognize what you've become." And when she asked what that was, he answered, "Something like me." But as he watched the cadets that night, he began to worry. They were evolving into something efficient and lethal, perhaps too much so, and he questioned whether he'd created soldiers or monsters. The Void, adapting, stopped attacking military targets and launched simultaneous assaults on 12 civilian systems, causing Confederation forces to suffer devastating losses. While Marcus pushed to send in his graduates, now called Reapers, who fought like knives through darkness, using traps, bait tactics, and surgical strikes, once condemned but now saving lives, and on Proxima III, Tara's unit ignored conventional strategy and carved through Void-controlled territory, block by block with clinical brutality. And when the dust settled, the planets were secure, the losses low, and the Void pushed back. Yet something was changing. Reviewing combat footage, Marcus noticed the Void adjusting, targeting human instructors and graduates with alarming precision, and Klitsch confirmed intercepted enemy intel. They'd reclassified humans as primary extinction targets. 2 days later, a damaged Void scout ship was recovered, and Marcus joined the analysis team discovering the craft was partly organic, alive, and more shockingly encoded with ancient human linguistic elements, suggesting the Void's creators had visited Earth 50,000 years ago, a revelation that shook the High Command, leading Marcus to declare, "They don't just fear us because we're effective, they recognize us because we've fought them before." The Supreme Commander, grim-faced, told Marcus to contact Earth, as humanity's experience and brutality had become the galaxy's last hope. And within months, Earth officially joined the Confederation, not just as warriors, but as equals, with Marcus returning briefly to a hero's welcome in Washington, D.C., though not everyone supported humanity's role, especially after a human commander destroyed an entire moon to stop a void staging ground, prompting heated debate at the council where some species demanded human authority be restricted. But when Marcus stood to address them, he reminded the chamber, "You brought us here because we understand what you forgot. Survival demands terrible choices." And the council, divided but desperate, voted to continue integrating humans under heavy oversight. Back at Meridian Station, Tara, now leading a mixed-species special forces team, informed Marcus that the Void was building something colossal in dark space, consuming entire planets for resources, and though no one knew what it was, the sheer scale terrified them. And as Marcus lay awake that night staring at the stars, Klitsch sat beside him, telling him the council feared humanity would never return home after the war, to which Marcus answered, "They're right to fear. We don't stand still, but we build, we protect, we create. The question isn't if we'll change the galaxy. We already have. The question is, how?" And just then, alarms blared as the Void launched a massive new offensive, this time deploying planet-killing weapons and suicide fleets that overwhelmed conventional defenses, forcing Marcus into a closed-door meeting where a controversial solution was presented. A biological weapon designed to disrupt the Void's neural network, but deploying it required reaching their central control hub, a fortress around a dying star no fleet could breach. And when the Supreme Commander asked who would take it, Marcus volunteered himself and his original 15 cadets. As they prepared for the mission, Marcus revealed the truth. Their goal was to end the war by crippling the Void at its core, and Tara, understanding the gravity, said, "You taught me survival means terrible choices." And Marcus nodded. "And now we make the hardest one yet." The stealth ship, cloaked in void tech, slipped deep into enemy territory until the massive, pulsing neural hub loomed before them. But just before deploying the weapon, Tara sensed something horrifying. Human minds inside the structure, ancient consciousnesses forcibly integrated into the Void's hive. And upon scanning, the team found thousands of human patterns, preserved for centuries without bodies. Realizing the Void hadn't just fought humanity before, they had absorbed us, Marcus was faced with an impossible choice: deploy the weapon and kill those minds, or abort and doom the galaxy. So he made a new plan: to modify the weapon to target only Void systems while shielding the human remnants, a near-impossible task that required someone to interface directly with the hub and guide the weapon from within, knowing full well it could be fatal, and when no one else could volunteer fast enough, Marcus stepped forward, saying, "I started this. I need to end it the right way." And as the final moment came, he linked into the hub's consciousness, feeling its pain, hunger, and fear, but also the trapped human minds calling to him, and using every shred of strength, he separated them from the Void's core as the weapon detonated through his connection, severing the hive's control across the galaxy and rendering the Void collective fractured, weakened, and vulnerable. His team pulled him from the collapsing hub, barely alive, and though the war didn't end that day, its outcome became certain. Without coordination, the Void fractured into scattered threats the Confederation could now contain. 6 months later, Marcus declined high command and instead opened an academy focused on tactical unity and mutual understanding, with recovered human minds serving as teachers, and Tara now leading a balanced combat program, her empathy restored and sharpened by purpose. And as Marcus watched her train a new class of diverse cadets, Klitsch stood beside him and said, "They feared you'd make us more violent, but instead you taught us how to survive without losing our values." And Marcus, watching a peaceful exploration ship dock nearby, quietly replied, "Our real strength was never how well we fight. It's knowing when not to."